So Brett, this week, a couple days ago, or actually yesterday, from when we were filming this, an article was released by our good friend Jason Schreier, who has been the topic. His articles have been the topic of many segments on our podcast because he's a fantastic writer and is one of the very few um, investigative journalists in the gaming sphere.
Yeah.
So yeah, this week he released an article talking about Amazon and specifically their games division and how basically it's a shit show over there. It's really bad. They spend so much money on games. They haven't released a game, and they were founded, I think, in 2015. Now
Yeah,
they
it's been a while.
haven't released a game. They scrapped a bunch of projects. So let's get into a little bit. I'm going to run down some highlights from the article, and then I want your input. Okay. So
I'm ready.
the dude that runs Amazon Game Studios, his name is Mike Frazzini. Okay, Mike Frazzini. And he
Frazzini.
something to note is that he never made a game prior to beginning this venture with Amazon Game Studios. He has worked at Amazon for a long time. He's a lifer, as they call him. He's very close with Jeff Bezos, but he never made a game before taking over Game Studios. Okay.
Gotcha.
So the foundation of Amazon Game Studios and what their kind of mantra is for making games was founded on the Jeff Bezos' idea of making the biggest, most groundbreaking games, right? And Jason Schreier mentions in articles like they focus on this really instead of games that people want to play, right? Which is a major
Gotcha.
criticism of the developers that worked for them. Now, obviously, Amazon Game Studios bought Twitch, right? Which is huge. For Game Studios, this Mike Frazzini dude has recruited creators of EverQuest and Portal, right? But within this article, Jason Schreier talks about that he never really listened to these people. So he essentially hired huge names, right? Developers in the gaming world to make games and then basically ignored them. Okay. Jason Schreier talks about that there's a bro culture in the office, that there was issues that basically Mike Frazzini went and created positions that were formerly held by women and put the position above them just so he didn't have to listen to the women developers within it, and there was another position above them now. And basically that Mike Frazzini was terrible in content reviews. They would, something common in the game sphere is that your development team will show the director or whoever's in charge what's going on. They'll play test it and they'll offer feedback. And according to people that he interviewed for the article, Mike Frazzini would like give feedback that like basically a normie would give. Be like, why is this color? What's going on here? Can we
It's like
make
a
this go?
placeholder.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
copy paste, abysmal, whatever. So that's stuff specific to Mike Frazzini, but there is a little bit more here. So do you
Oh
want to
boy.
comment on any of that before I continue? Because it doesn't get better.
Yeah, I'll comment quickly. I want to start off by saying just like in general, Amazon just has all the money in the world and they can do
Right.
like anything they want, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Jeff Bezos clearly saw that video games are a huge profitable thing. He wanted to get a cut of that. Why? I don't know. I guess they just need more money, which they don't.
Well,
And
actually, with that point, he said specifically that he wants to do it as a means of selling more subscriptions to Amazon Prime and to get more foot traffic essentially through their online marketplace through video
okay,
games.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that this Mike Frazzini guy, not the right guy to head a studio for making video games if he's never made a game before.
Right.
And he wants to make these huge worlds, but like doesn't care about the gameplay. It's almost like what's it called? What's that game called? Anthem, where like the game
Yes.
kind of just like looked good and like it was this huge open game, but like no one wanted to play it. It didn't have anything about it that made it charming almost.
Oh, I forgot. You're broken. I don't want to play with you anymore.
It's like when you build something,
Exactly.
but you don't put any care into it, and it's just a shell. And I think I
Exactly.
mentioned this to you. It's like this whole studio is just like a big pile of cancer that was just formed with money. you know?
Yes, which could have been great if they had like, they could make whatever they want with as much money as they want, but they have a doofus in charge who only wants to make the biggest stuff. So you're hiring all these people, but you're not really letting them create, right?
Especially the EverQuest and Portal guys that you mentioned.
Right.
I mean, how do you have guys like that of that caliber and you don't let them do it? I mean, in my mind, I would, if I was running this studio and I had all the money in the world, I'd be like, you're going to make a game, you're going to make a game, you're going to make a game, and we're going to make a bunch of games, and let's just be creative and game jam and, make something cool that people are going to want to play. We have all the money in the world. Like, you know what I mean? If it turns out that it's not enjoyable during our play sessions, we'll just scrap the idea, but at least we tried, right? And he's just focusing on these huge, big experiences.
Right.
And as you'll see,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, what?
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, as you'll see in our top 50 games list later on in this pod, or in another video, you'll find that sometimes some of people's favorite games aren't these huge, open, expansive, open world games, right? They could be these small, short little experiences. So I think this guy's going about it all wrong. And then, of course, the bro culture, and just like maliciously hiring men to creating positions and then hiring men to fill those positions just so that they can be in charge of the women that he doesn't want to deal with.
Exactly.
It's just, what a piece of shit,
Exactly. But it
Guy's
goes
just
to
not
it goes to the larger point too, which Jason Schreier goes into a lot of detail in the article. And if you haven't read it, I really recommend reading it, because it's like him and somebody else wrote the article with him. I'm sorry, I don't know their name off the top of my head. But it's like 30 different people that used to work for Amazon or currently do in the game stuff. They talk a lot about the devs complaining about the corporate culture, right, of Amazon and the focus on data rather than the artistic side of it. And what is the biggest thing right now? Where are people playing? What are people clicking on? What are people buying? We want to basically copy that and do that, right? And you saw it with failed titles that they made, like Nova, which was supposed to be their version of League of Legends, which has been scrapped, and then Crucible, which was supposed to be their version of Overwatch, which actually released, and then they scrapped and removed it from the marketplace because it was terrible. Like, you can't... Creating games and developing games is a lot of things, right? But it's not procedural. You cannot put something on a conveyor belt and just add things to it each step of the way and expect a good result, right? Even if somebody else had success from that. Because if you don't have a team that is invested in creating what you're doing, then you're not going to actually have a good end product. Creating games is art at every level, from the coding to the actual artists. And if you try to force that into some kind of corporate Amazon hierarchy type thing, which we know runs Amazon, they talk in the article about 14 leadership principles they have, including customer obsession and frugality. You can't fucking shove art creation into a corporate structure like that. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
It's almost poetic how Amazon can't, it's like they're trying and they are failing over and over again to make a game.
All the money in the world. The money in the world.
It's like you'd think that they would get the point that it's not in the cards, but they keep trying.
Right. So a couple quick more points. Initially, one of the big issues was that Amazon was trying to create their own development software, instead of using something like Unreal or Unity or whatever.
What a waste of time and money and resources.
Exactly. So they created something called Lumberyard, which was apparently one of the worst things to code in and develop games with. They created their own proprietary thing, spent a shit ton of money on it, and it didn't work. And it used like web tools, like Amazon Web Services based stuff that didn't work. It was not dev friendly, right? So eventually they hired Christoph Hartmann of BioShock fame. He didn't direct it or anything, but he worked on BioShock. He published those games. He worked at 2K for a long time, right? And he basically came in and was hired by this Frazzini guy, as far as I know. And Christoph Hartmann came in and is like, we're not using Lumberyard. If you want to use Unreal, use it. If you want to use Unity, use it. But we're not going to mandate the use of Lumberyard anymore. Which now, their new game, which you might have heard of recently, called New World, which is in development, I think is being made on either Unity or Unreal. And continuing with that, there's so many abysmal pieces in this story. Was that basically it's a game where you take over, you go to a new world, right? And there was depictions of people like you as the player killing people in the game that looked like Native Americans, which caused a huge caused a huge backlash. And this Frazzini guy was like, "Oh, this isn't racist," and they hired a tribal consultant, like a Native American tribal consultant. And then the Native American tribal consultant came out and said, "Yeah, it's racist. Don't do this." So they
Wow.
basically scrapped. They didn't scrap the game. They scrapped those player models and are rebuilding it so they don't look like Native Americans.
That's interesting. Why would you think that's a good idea for a game? Like, I don't understand.
I don't know, man. There's more. I mean, I
White
could
people
probably
the
talk.
game, dude. Just
Yeah.
pillaging. Like, what?
Yeah, wasn't a good idea. But you know, and Amazon also has they have Twitch. They also have this Luna thing that they're doing with that's basically Stadia, which we've already talked about prior on the channel. We know it's going to fail. We don't want it.
It's in people's hands now.
It is. I actually have a
So-
beta code sign up thing, but I never did it.
Do you?
Yeah, I signed up. I'm not interested, to be honest with you. And I think you have to still buy the games even if you're invited in. So I don't, whatever.
Ugh.
But interesting last note is that the David Limp, who is running the Luna stuff, David Limp, said basically he's like, yeah, we're gonna kind of pursue publishing in this realm too, since Amazon Game Studios basically can't make a game. And obviously I'm paraphrasing and changing his words, but his quotes in the article read like that to me. He's like, yeah, basically Amazon Games sucks, so we're going to do this Luna thing and try to publish our own games while they try to figure out what the fuck they're doing.
And isn't that kind of like what Amazon does with films too? Don't they publish films?
Yeah, I mean that's their model for Prime, right? They started a couple of years ago buying up these smaller indie films almost in a lot of ways and releasing them, right? And where they have a lot of success with their own content, right, is Prime Video, where they do make their own TV shows and stuff like that, or buy other dying TV shows, right, and then essentially resurrect them like The Expanse and stuff. And Amazon has a lot of great TV shows and content there, but they have not been able to hit the same stride with games. And it's because games, in my opinion, is such a different medium. And if you have the head of your studio with this corporate mindset, like Frazzini clearly does,
Yeah.
it's not going to work. It's not going to work. How many times have we seen this in the games industry? If you want a game made, hire devs and talented artists, right, to make the game and let them make their own fucking game. That's
The
it.
problem starts with leadership here. The problem is the leaders.
Right. Look at
This
fucking
Frazzini
Cyberpunk.
guy.
Look at Cyberpunk.
Yeah. Yeah. True. Wait.
So
What? Wait. Look at what?
you heard it here, folks. We're never talking about the game ever again on this channel. We're done. I'm done. I really am done. I truly am finished. I don't know.
What game are you talking about?
I don't know. There's this game I thought I heard of that's really abysmal that we've talked
We don't
about.
talk about that
before,
game on this
but,
podcast.
But anyway, so that's abysmal. I mainly wanted to bring it up because my big thing is that if you try to shove art creation into a corporate structure, it's going to fail.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe. Josh and Brett really need you too. I love them. So do it. It would be a shame if you missed more of their videos. Hit the notification bell too so you know when there is a new upload.